Welcome to the Doubles Only Tennis Podcast, where you learn the best doubles strategies to improve your game and win more matches. I'm your host, Will Bocek. This podcast, my website, and my weekly newsletter all focus on the goal of better understanding the sport of doubles and helping players like you improve faster through actionable advice that you can use in your very next match. My goal is to provide the best doubles strategy resources in the world. And to do that, I study, analyze, and work with players at every level of the game, all the way up to the ATP and WTA tours. If you enjoy this podcast, I've created doubles strategy products that go even deeper if you want to take your doubles knowledge to the next level. At the end of this episode, I'll explain more about them, or if you want to learn more now, go to thetennistribe.com/products. Here's today's episode. You're about to hear my conversation with Luke Johnson. Luke is at a career high ranking of number 40 on the ATP doubles tour. He is coming off the biggest win of his career, the ATP 500 tournament in Barcelona. He's on an 8-match win streak at the time of me recording this. And during this conversation, we talk about what's gone right recently for he and his partner, Sander Arends. We also talk about their partnership in general, what kind of makes them work together. They have different kind of game styles that we dive into. We also discuss college tennis a bit, what advice Luke would give himself back in 2019 when he made his Wimbledon debut. We talk about what Luke has learned from his coach, Calvin Betton, who I had earlier or on the podcast earlier this year. And then we also discuss goals for the rest of the season. And at the end of this episode, we do something that I've never done on the podcast before. So I shared my screen and we actually watched the entire 10-point match tiebreaker from the Barcelona Final, which Luke and his partner won. And Luke shares his mindset and kind of some of the strategy and hand signals and communication that he had with his partner and what was going through his mind during this 10-point tiebreaker and how he approaches tiebreakers. So it was a really fun thing that I'm going to try to continue to do from time to time on the podcast. I'd love to hear your feedback if you feel like you got a lot out of that. I published it on YouTube. So if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or something like that, just look in the show notes and you should find a link to the YouTube channel. And from there, you can actually watch the video and follow along as Luke and I discuss what was going on in that tiebreaker. And then at the very end, I asked Luke how we can make it doubles more popular. So without further delay, enjoy this conversation with the number 40 doubles player in the world, Luke Johnson. Hey everyone, welcome to the show. Today we have ATP number 40 doubles player on, Luke Johnson. Luke, welcome.
Thank you for having me here, Will. Thanks.
So you are coming off the biggest title of your career in Barcelona, and I wanted to start there. You actually had a win before that in Monza with your partner, Sander Arends, and I wanted to ask just what went right over these couple of weeks in Monza and Barcelona. I noticed y'all won 4 matches in each tournament, so 8-match winning streak. Only 2 of those matches went to a third set tiebreaker, so it seems like something has certainly been clicking. What do you attribute that to?
I don't know. I think we played in Marrakesh the week before Monza, and we played a good match. We lost. I mean, it felt like a tough loss at the time, but we lost to Arniedo and Guinard, who then went on to win Monte Carlo the week after. So one of those losses that aged well. And we felt like we did a few things well. We felt like we did a few things that we wanted to improve on. And so we thought we'd take Monza as a chance to hopefully get 4 matches and sort of put our game on the court. I mean, when we're playing well, we feel like we sort of have put pressure on in all 4 games. We both return well. We have different styles of returning and serving, and at the net, we sort of try and have good presence. And I think we just wanted to get back to our sort of identity as a team, which was sort of building like lots of pressure over the full match and building pressure through doing everything well, or everything as well as we could, and through positional play and sort of getting back to that identity that we sort of had at the end of last year, the beginning of this year, and just get back winning again. I mean, we lost a few close matches in the end of Jan and Feb, and then Sander got married in March, so we had a couple of weeks off there, and then we just wanted to get back to it and get back to winning matches again. And yeah, I guess we did that. Luckily, yeah.
Talk about when you say applying pressure, and especially in all four games, usually I feel like teams have one particular game that maybe they're a little bit more vulnerable, whether it's somebody's specific serve or I guess on the return side, it might be a specific return side. Maybe one returner is weaker, but it sounds like for y'all, you feel confident in all four areas. But what does like building pressure or applying pressure on the opponents mean to you?
I think in the return games, it means like I would classify myself as a returner that takes a few risks. I try to like access my percentage of returns in maybe a little bit lower, but I try that on the returns that do go in, I hope the quality is extremely high. And Sander is more of a sort of a continuous, like he puts a lot of returns in, a few lobs, not maybe not as many winners or big shots, but the pressure is there through he's putting the ball in, they're having to play 3, 4, 5 shots to win those points on his side. And then on my serve, Sander obviously has an extremely good presence at the net, and I stay back. So it's having that identity in the games and trying to have a lot of first serves, try and keep our variety up there. And then when Sander's serving, he's serving volleys, and we try and he's a great volleyer, so we just try and have plays that sort of fit the way that we think are going to win us the most points, and sort of play that type of point and those type of situations as much as we can.
I wonder if that variety in terms of returning, but then also serving, makes life more difficult for your opponents too, right? Like, is that
I hope so.
something? Is that something
Yeah.
y'all have like talked about, or is that something that like you feel like makes the partnership work so well? Because if I'm facing like two players who serve and volley every time, well, I'm going to get into a rhythm there, right?
Yeah.
But if one of them serves and stays back, and one of them serves and volleys, or one of them's blasting returns and the other one's hitting a lot of lobs, like I'm going to have a lot more difficulty, I guess, on one versus the other and not able to find a rhythm.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's what we sort of hope to do, and we try to make it as difficult as we can for our opponents. I think about that. Everyone's trying to make it as difficult as you can, but I think we have an identity of how we can do that to different teams, and the way Sander does it and the way I do it is quite different. But we've been playing together since September now, basically the whole time, and we're sort of able to build and find that way that works well for both of us. I mean, interestingly, our first tournament we played together was a Challenger 125 in Porto last July. And this was when we both were set for the US Open after that and things. So we weren't planning to play with each other the following tournaments, but we were both looking for a partner that week, and we played it, and it just sort of naturally really like fit well. And then that was when we sort of started thinking maybe this is going to work long term if things were to sort of fall that way after the US Open, which they ended up doing. So I think it's more naturally the game styles fell into each other's hands well.
Mm-hmm. Have there been other times, I want to move on in a second, but this is interesting to me. Have there been other times in your career where you've maybe partnered with someone and early on you feel like, oh, this could work in that same way, but then it doesn't work out?
No, it's not. No,
You don't think so?
usually it works. Yeah, I know what you said. Yeah, usually when you have that feeling, it does work out for a period of time.
Okay.
I think what's been good with Sander and I is we're both very, let's sort of process orientated, and so it worked out at the beginning. But then we look into the data. I mean, Calvin comes in with that, and we look into the data, and we look into things that we're doing well and we're trying to always improve them. So we haven't really reached a point where we've been sort of plateauing yet. We're still always trying to
Hmm.
improve and then find the best ways. So we had that initial good connection and then we're just trying to keep improving on that. We didn't get complacent, I guess, with that.
Hmm. So speaking of improving, I was looking at your ranking earlier. There's a ATP coach I work with who, when he works with a player, um,
Mm.
one of the goals generally is to cut their ranking in half by each year. So if you're at
Yeah.
100, by the end of next year, you want to be at 50, and then 25, and then top 12 or 10. So you've been doing that since 2021, basically, it looks like.
Yeah.
What do you attribute that increase in ranking and consistency over the last 4 or 5 years to? And how do you look at it? Do you look at it in like phases like that, or do you just trust the process? What's your kind of philosophy on it?
I mean, I have goals at the beginning of each year of where I would like to be at certain points with the ranking. When I was, I guess, 2021, that was the time where 2021, 2022 was the time where I really started focusing on just doubles. I always played doubles and really enjoyed it and was much more successful in doubles. So the ranking has always been reasonably high in terms of a futures borderline challengers level when I was still playing singles, but I just tried then I wanted to half it and I probably wanted to I probably set very like high goals. Like I think the year I sort of finished, it was not last year, the year before, I think I finished 117, I think it was. And
Hmm.
the goal that year was top 100 by the end of the year. And it wasn't that I guess I wasn't disappointed to not make it, but it was more that was just the goal at the start of the year when I was 220 the year before that. So it would have been quite a significant jump. And I think, yeah, to attribute it's just I just played a lot of tennis. Had some good partners. I think I've got a good coach who has been helpful and instrumental in sort of just keeping me developing. But the goal has always been originally when I was 250, the goal was I want to play the Masters. So the Masters 1000, the cut usually for them has been between 30 and 40 for an individual. So 60 to 70 to 80 combined. And so I've always been sort of reaching for that and trying to build my game to what would it look like and how would it be. And the standards that I hold myself to in practice have been the ones that I think will get me to that. And the standards Calvin's helped me to have been the ones that we think will get us to be playing directly in the Masters.
You mentioned data earlier. How much do you look at that versus? I know a lot of players are more kind of feel players. How much? Where do you kind of fall in those two
Um,
camps?
I like the data, but I don't like. I don't. I'm not so good at interpreting it myself. So
Mm.
Calvin, my coach, is extremely good at interpreting data. So we get the data through the LTA, the British Federation, and then he is sort of able to decipher the good things, the bad things, where he thinks we can do better, where he thinks we're doing really well, but we're not doing enough of this, or things like that. And so I like to receive the data. I'm not so good at being able to pick out the bits very well, but luckily
Hmm.
Calvin's good at that. So
Yeah. And how long have you been working with Calvin?
since the first trip we did together it was right before the COVID year. So I guess it would be the 2020.
Okay.
That was when he first started working with me full time. But I've known Calvin since I was maybe 12 or 13. He's been involved. A good friend of his was my coach when I was growing up from 13 to 18. So then Calvin was sort of involved and he would come and watch my matches then and do stats for my matches. And then when I came back from college, he was working with a different player. I was at the Team Bath Tennis Academy and he was busy, and then it just sort of came back. I wanted to move back up north to where we're both from. And so, yeah, I guess now it's been 5 years of this, but he's been in and around and involved with my tennis for many years now.
Hmm. And share your story with us. I looked on Wikipedia, and saw you played a lot of cricket growing up, it sounds like, and then of course played
Yeah,
college tennis. So share your kind of tennis story, how you got to where you are today.
I loved tennis and cricket were my two sports growing up. Like I loved playing both of them. They sort of fit well together. One being a team sport, one being an individual sport. I think I I always remember thinking that never in a time when I was growing up were both going badly, which I think is good. So there was obviously ups and downs with both of them.
Mhm.
I sort of played county standard cricket until I was 15 or 16 years old. And at that point, I then decided that tennis was the one. Like I really liked the individual aspect of it. I've just enjoyed tennis more. So then at that point, I just decided to I still played cricket for my club and things, but I wanted to play more tennis, put more of my eggs into that basket. I would say a reasonably good junior. I wasn't on an international stage setting the world alight, but I was good nationally. I sort of played a lot of national level tournaments. And then at the under 18 nationals, I made the semi-finals of the singles there. And I think the final of the doubles. And that was where the recruiting for college sort of picked up a notch because there was quite a good amount of coaches there. And then there was some interest and some results or notable results against players that they'd known. So then I ended up going to college and having, 4 really good years.
hmm And you went to Clemson, correct?
Yes. Yeah, I was at Clemson,
What are your thoughts on like the college versus pro experience? Obviously, or pathway, I should say. Obviously, a lot more and more players are going to college now. You can even make a little bit of money in college, which
Yeah.
helps. So, what are your thoughts on that?
I think there's a lot of people who aren't sort of physically or emotionally or mentally developed enough at the age of 18 to go professional. I think some people are, and some people have the backing, and they have, if you're going to go through futures extremely quickly, if you're at that level where you can fly through futures and get into challenges quickly, I think going pro makes sense but there's a lot of players who get stuck in futures, and it's tough. It's really tough. The If you're 18 and you're on your own for 8 weeks in a set of tournaments and you don't have good results, I think you're just not ready for that. So I think college is a really good route there to where you can develop in all aspects of tennis and in life. And I think that's where college tennis is so good because the level is so high. There's so many good players there. There is even people who would be good enough to go straight through futures who are in college. And
hmm
those guys, that you just learn so much and you improve so much. And if you're having a decent scholarship, you're not losing any money. And like you said, now guys are making money.
hmm So you made your Grand Slam debut at Wimbledon in 2019, I read.
Yeah.
What advice would you give yourself back then?
I think that it doesn't mean as much as you thought it did back then. I guess when you go and you play Wimbledon for the first time, it was you're like, wow, this one, you're thinking this might be my only time. So you're worried a little bit about that. At least I was. I remember thinking, well, I need to do well. I need to, I have to play well. I have to do this. Everyone's now, all eyes are watching me. But I think a lot of people are invested in the tennis, whether you're at Wimbledon or you're playing a lower level. The people that really care don't care so much what the level is. They just want to see you doing well and see you being successful. I think just relax and enjoy it as well. I mean, go out there. I honestly, now I couldn't remember the first probably 2 sets of that match. I mean, we lost in straight sets. It was a 5-set match, so we lost in straight sets. But I even the next day I couldn't really remember the first couple of sets. By the third set, I'd relaxed into it and was enjoying it. But the first 2 sets wasn't that I performed badly. It was just the whole experience was a bit of a blur, and it was intense, and it's a new experience. I would just say
Hmm.
relax and enjoy it, and just go out and play your tennis. Like,
Yeah. What so if I asked Calvin your biggest asset as a doubles player and then an area you need to work on, what do you think he would say?
I would say my biggest asset would be my returns. I mean, I think he tells me he thinks I'm one of the best couple of returners in the world. Um, in a sense that I'm quite destructive in that, and I can return very well off good serves. If you said what do I need to work on, I mean my service partner stuff. We're working on it a lot, but it's something that yeah I just have to keep improving and always keep trying to work on, because if I don't do it, then it can drop. The level can drop. If I do it, the level can go up. And just trying to really bring that up to a world class standard.
Hmm. What's one lesson that you've learned from Calvin that you would share with other tennis players that you think might help them?
The biggest one for me, and it took a while, it would be to not. It sounds silly, but not to over practice, not to practice just for the sake of practicing. To go out there with a specific target of what you want to get out of the practice, and then you do that, and if you've accomplished that, then you can maybe stop practicing for that day. If that takes an hour, you might have two things and each thing takes an hour, but then you don't need to go and do things just for the sake of doing things.
Mm.
You don't need to go out there and box tick for just so you feel good. He always wants the practices to be very concise. We obviously practice a good amount, but he wants the things to be very, very pointed as to what you're trying to work on, what you're trying to improve, and not just go out there and try to feel good, not try to convince yourself that you're doing the right things. Go out there and just really nail down on a few things.
Hmm. So do you feel like you like practicing now versus maybe 5 years ago, you have more of maybe a plan or a focus within each practice than you did?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, I would say so. I mean, it's a difficult thing, and at the beginning, I didn't always like the practices. I would feel like I didn't come away with lots of rhythm. I didn't go out and hit hundreds of forehands cross court and hundreds of forehand and backhands cross court. We don't really do so much of that. If we do it, we would do it in a points based situation where there is pressure and scoring pressure and constraints around where you can hit the ball and what type of shot you can hit. And so he's extremely good at sort of making the practices and making the drills teach you the drills that he's put together, are sort of trying to teach you the things that he wants me to learn or
Hmm.
improve on without so much of less technical feedback.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense to me too, because since like certainly at the ATP level, there's not a lot of points where you're hitting more than one, maybe two forehands in a row.
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
so to go out and hit 100 forehands cross court or whatever
Mm.
is probably not the best thing to translate to a match situation. Um,
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, he's
yeah.
very big on everything you do in the practice translating to the match court, and even to a stage where when we're practicing, like we'll be hitting, and then suddenly he'll want us to hit some serves, and we'll hit serves for 5 minutes, and then we'll go back to hitting again to sort of try and replicate where one game you're serving, and then one game you're at the net as a service partner, to then the next game you're returning, and things like that, just to try and so you're able to sort of use the skills when you need them. Not
Mhm.
I don't need to hit 10 forehands before I can then hit my first good forehand.
Yeah. Yeah, I've read some research on this where it's like it was about like learning different motor skills and like if you're trying to hit, let's say you're practicing like your wide serve in the deuce court or something like that, and you it's better to hit like one or two wide serves and then go tee and then come back to it than hit 80 straight wide serves because
Exactly. Yeah.
you're not it does there's something about your brain where like it doesn't stick as much if you don't have that variety. Um,
Exactly. Yeah.
and it
Yeah. I
kind
think
of
to be
makes
able to
sense.
to be able to do it with the variety is then when you have sort of mastery of that skill.
Hmm.
And like you said, in tennis, you never would hit 10 wide serves in a row. You hit one and then you have to go to the ad side. So a lot of when I'm practicing my serve will be, I hit one serve, I'm trying to hit the wide serve, I have to hit the wide serve. If I miss it, I then hit a second serve, which will be a different type of serve. And then I'll go to the ad side and I'll have a serve I'm trying to improve there and I'll hit that. And then I go back to the juice side again. So there may be, so it's sort of replicating the match format of what it would be like to serve, and then the skills hopefully then show up on the match court.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. You talked about goals. What are at this point you're at number 40,
Yeah.
probably with the exception of Madrid, you're probably in most of the Masters 1000s for the rest of the year.
Mm-hmm.
What other goals do you have for 2025?
Uh, we said when we were in Australia this year, that by Australia next year, Sander and I wanted to be seeded. So that would be a top 16 team. So that would be for obviously the end of this year. We want to be able to be either get in the Masters by sort of post US Open, or like the US swing, sorry, the US Masters. We would hope to get, our goal was to get into them. Maybe we'll play some Masters before then. We're not sure yet, but there would be, hopefully we can get into them. That would be straight in on our ranking, or be top 13 in the race to Turin after the first 6 months, then gets you in the Masters for the last 6 months.
Oh, okay. I didn't even know that rule. Okay.
Yeah, so that's probably the biggest goal. Play the Masters and then hopefully be seeded at the Slams next year.
Awesome. Yeah, and it looked, I think y'all are 10 in the race right now. So
10 in the race, yeah.
so
We're in a good spot, but there's a lot of points to be played for still.
sure, 100%. Um, all right. So this month I have a membership with club level doubles players, and we do different lessons, and I do a webinar each month. And this month I'm talking about tiebreakers. What is your best advice for winning tiebreakers?
Uh, Keep your first serve percentage high.
Mhm.
That would be an important one. I think try to dominate the middle of the court, as a service partner, because I think the thing in tie breaks is that obviously everyone understands that they're important. You've at least played a long set to get to a tie break, or the third set is a super tie break. So at the end of the matches, people are going to maybe play a little bit more conservatively. And I think if you can make first serves and not and punish the balls that go through the middle, you can almost make your opponents try and hit towards the tram lines, towards the alleys, and maybe you get a few mistakes out of them that way.
Mhm. I love it. All right, so I want to try something that we have not done before on the podcast. So we will see how this goes. I'm going to share my screen here and let me know if you can see this.
Yeah,
You got it? Okay, so we're going to go over for people listening. I am sharing the final from Barcelona. So y'all went to a third set tiebreaker. So it's a 10-point match tiebreak. We're going to go through these points, and I'm going to have this published on YouTube as well. So people who are listening can um, go to our YouTube channel and find it there if you want to kind of follow along.
yeah,
But let's start here at 0-0. Let's just talk through kind of what y'all are discussing. So you started with a huddle there. A lot of
yeah.
people may not know. What are you talking about in the huddle when you're the serve team? You're the one serving in this scenario.
Yeah, I mean, so we just come off the back of the second set tiebreak, which we lost 7-1, maybe 7-2, I think 7-1. So we were obviously, they had a little bit of momentum coming in from the end of the second set. So the first thing we were saying was, look, we need to try and stamp our authority on the tiebreak, not let them sort of have another run of points. I was starting to serve, so we're going to probably try and sort of go with a good first serve, one that I feel like I can make quite consistently, and sort of play from there. I mean, we sort of say when we're in that huddle, we say where I'm going to serve and the move that Sander's going to make,
Mhm.
and then we sort of play from there after that.
Okay, so we've got first serve here for you, serve wide, and then the return error.
Yeah,
So a good way to start the tiebreak. That has to give you like confidence just going with your kind of a first serve
exactly.
that you know you're
Yeah,
going to make or you feel good
exactly.
about making.
You feel good about making it. I think in the match I'd hit a lot of tee serves, and Joe had returned the backhand well, so it was good change up there.
Okay. So then Neil's serving at 0-1. So how does your mindset shift here from first to second serve? So your opponent misses their first serve. I notice let's go back a little bit there. So you're a little bit back. So y'all are playing two back
Yeah, we
there.
play two.
Oops.
We generally play two back when our opponent plays I formation when Sander's returning. He likes to be able. For him. He feels that it sort of lets him see the whole court very well. If I stay back on the first
Okay.
serve and then second serve, where obviously he's trying to hit sort of a bigger return and try and put a bit of pressure. So with me up, hopefully if Sander can get it past the service partner, in this case Joe, and then we can really try and put some pressure on Neil early on in the tiebreak.
Okay. So we've got a second serve here. He does hit a good return.
Yeah, he hit a good return. I sort of crossed into the middle, um, and that was a great start from Sander.
Yeah. Yeah. Big return there. And I want people to notice one thing here. So when you cross towards the middle, this is something a lot of people, especially at the club level, don't get. Like with that down the line, shoot, here we go. With this down the line return, they end up for club level players, they're going to end up in this down the line rally, and he can't really go cross court unless he's going to hit a lob. So for
Yeah.
you to cross there is just almost an obvious decision that a lot of people don't do at the lower levels, and I want them to kind of take that away from this here.
Yeah, try and cross, and if for example I would try and have both my feet over the center line. So if
Okay.
I can have both my feet over, and then I can lunge and sort of make a backhand volley if it's going in the singles court, and then hopefully he can't beat me cross court unless he hits an unbelievably good shot.
hmm So in this scenario, you're against I again.
Yeah,
Uh,
but Sander plays up on all of my returns.
yeah. So this makes sense. You talked earlier about how he's a really good net player. You
Yeah,
play more aggressively with your returns anyways. So then again, a look at a second serve. So this is a huge thing. You talked about first serve percentage in the tiebreaker, and the opponents missed both first serves, and then you end up even getting a double fault there, and
yeah,
you're immediately out to a double break lead.
yeah. And that was a shock. That was a from our side. That was a shock, but hopefully that's maybe pressure from the match telling.
Does your mindset and even your strategy change at all? Being ahead in a tiebreaker, especially the early on, 3-0, um, versus being behind. Do you try to play either take more risk or less risk, or how do you think about that?
I think you can maybe not more risk, but you just a little bit more relaxed. So you're able
Mhm.
to like a double break. We're sort of able to there. We lost that point on Sanders' serve. We're still a mini break up, so we can try and so sort of they're going to have to go for more and hopefully maybe make a few more mistakes. Like yeah, so that was
Okay.
a great second serve from Sander, which enabled me to sort of get a touch on the first ball, which is a big thing.
Yeah, let's look at this one again. So this is a difference between a lot of people listening and then your level. Like y'all are staying more aggressive on second serve as the server's partner. Um, but yeah, you're still kind of taking away the middle there.
Yeah, that was I needed to take that one. That would have been a very tricky volley for Sander had it gone down the middle to his backhand there.
Mm.
We sort of try and have a rule that the server doesn't hit. If he's on the juice side serving, he wouldn't hit a backhand volley, and if he's on the ad side serving, hopefully he wouldn't hit a forehand volley. So I try and take away that inside volley.
Okay. So even on the ad side, the server's partner you want taking middle.
Yeah, great return from Sander.
Yeah, that was that kind of lob return.
Yeah,
That's such a tough one. You don't see many people. Usually the lob return is more of like a chip, and that almost had some topspin on it.
yeah, it was
It was
almost a fast lob.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it was one of those. I think where he was caught. I don't think because it was a very good serve from Joe, he couldn't do much more.
Yeah.
I think the plan was to go down the line, but the height of it just made it a very perfect return almost.
How do you communicate or think about when you are returning your return location? Are you and Sander communicating like I'm going to go line here? When are you doing that? Or are
So
you
with
just kind of
the
feeling?
so with the way that I return, I sort of make a decision where I'm going to go usually before the point and try and adjust after through that. But
Mhm.
Sander likes to sort of wait and hold on his return a little bit longer and try and avoid the net player. So
Okay.
I'm more of I'm just going to hit the return and hit it hopefully hard and accurately. If they go the right way, maybe they knock the volley off. If they go the wrong way, the server's going to have a really difficult volley. Whereas Sander
hmm
likes to hold and just try and avoid the net player.
Okay, so you're serving here. Another first serve. That one looked more like a body serve there, I guess.
Yeah, that was a body serve. Again, that was the thing. Yeah, we wanted another first serve there. We felt that we could find one if we went body.
And then the between first and second serve, Sanders signaling behind his back. I know a lot of this stuff seems obvious to you, but the really good forehand there. A lot of the listeners may not understand. So between first and second serve, what is he signaling? Is it the serve location and movement, like you talked about earlier, or is there something
Yeah,
else?
no, he's signaling where he wants me to serve and where then he's going to move. And
Okay.
I can sort of agree or disagree. So he gives what he thinks, and then I'll say yes to the location, and then he'll move on to the what move, and I'll say yes or no, and then we go from there.
I see. So for um for first serves, this is something I've actually not talked to any players about. The location obviously matters, and then the net player's movement, but I would imagine the type of serve matters too. Like if we're playing and we call a T serve, like I kind of want to know if it's going to be more of a spin serve or a flat serve. Is that something you'll get into, or
We
um,
do we do on the clay because there's obviously a little bit more variety. You can't just,
okay,
at least the way I serve and the way Sanders serves, there's less of you can't just serve through players. You don't serve like on the grass. You're pretty much always going to hit a big first serve because
mm,
you can
right?
get so much purchase from it. On the clay, we might sort of say, look, I might go kick T here or kick wide or something, and then he can expect the a different type of return, and he can also time his movements because obviously there may be 20 or 30 kilometers an hour difference between those two serves.
hmm Sure. So that'll adjust like how you're going to move at the net, like how early.
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
see. So when you're towards the end of a tiebreaker, obviously you've got a big lead here, up 8-3 serving. Um, is there anything you do to kind of keep your nerves calm, or any advice you have for kind of handling nervousness?
I think for me, when I historically have been nervous, I would tend to rush maybe or try and just get the point started and play and those type of things. But the last sort of couple of years, what's worked is just for me just taking a bit more time. Especially, I mean, you have that when you're serving. When you're returning, I guess you're a lot more reactive. So it's more when I'm serving here, try and take a little bit a little bit more time and just staying brave, not almost playing safe, playing to win when it's close, playing to win, like really finish the match off with authority.
Hmm. Good first volley there. Yeah, I like that answer because you first like noticed your, I guess, negative tendency that you have when
Mm.
you get nervous, and then you find a way to counter it, right? And it's probably going to
Yeah,
be different for everyone.
exactly.
Um,
Yeah, I think it's about finding or trying to realize what you would do. Yeah, the negative tendency. Because the thing is, sometimes when I was playing under pressure a few years ago, you could rush, but you still hit an ace. You can still hit a
mhm,
good serve when you rush, but
mhm.
it's not the answer long term.
Right. Over time, it's not gonna hold
Exactly. Yeah, over
up.
time, really finding what you do and what then can bring the most consistent results out.
So talk about this signal. So the opponent misses the first serve, and then you signal behind your back as the returner's partner. Is this just a stay or poach?
Yeah, yeah. So when,
Okay.
like I said, Sander likes to watch and try and sort of pick out avoiding the server's partner, so Neil in this case. So then I'm saying whether I'm
Hmm.
going to stay or whether I'm going to poach.
Okay. Is that something you'll call off if the return is, say, like, short or just a little bit weaker return?
Yeah, like if they hit a really good serve and Sander hits a not as good return, for example,
Yeah.
I'm not going to cross. If we've called cross, then I would unlikely to cross. Or say, for
Yeah.
example, he hit a return that is super wide, and Neil was or Joe was hitting the third ball from outside the doubles alley. It doesn't make sense to cross from there.
Hmm.
But that I guess you gain from playing. Like me and Sander have an understanding of when it's going to be called off naturally.
Right. Just team chemistry and
Exactly.
experience
Yeah.
playing together.
Mm.
So there it was again. It looked like he signaled stay. So he's not telling you where to hit the second return in this scenario, but you've got it like made up in your mind, kind of.
No, so for when Sander's returning, I say what move I'm going to do, and when I'm
Hmm.
returning, Sander says where he wants me to return. That's
Oh,
the
okay.
difference in our game style slightly. He has very good intuition at the net, so he likes to not be told, not be sort of be held back by the call, but he'll
Uh,
play off what he feels once I've hit my return.
Interesting. That's really cool because I have so many people ask me, should I be doing this on second return? Should I be calling poach or should I be calling? And it's just different for each player. It sounds
Exactly. Yeah,
like.
we go
Yeah.
different for yeah. Like I said, it's different for
Yeah.
Sander what I call, and it's different for Sander what he calls for me.
Okay. And let's relive the match point real quick.
Yeah,
So you went body serve, first serve, and then just a
yeah,
backhand error in the net.
yeah. We went body, yeah, body backhand, and then sort of Sander leaving the line almost open for Neil to go for.
Yeah. Awesome. Cool. Well, that was fun. One last question for you.
Mhm.
How can we make doubles more popular?
I would say just really marketing the players, marketing the product. I mean, there's so many interesting players and different styles of play in the doubles tour, and there's a inbuilt sort of storyline with the teams, and unfortunately, teams do break up and things like that. So I think it's sort of almost capitalizing on those natural storylines and speaking to more players and letting more players, like you're doing a great job with that. But I mean, just really trying to market more players, get more players out there so that there's more known. Because, like you said, in doubles is a huge thing in club tennis. I know when I go back to my local club, I only see people playing doubles really. So
Hmm.
it's one of those things that I think just needs to be put on the map a little bit more, and the product is good enough. I believe the product is good enough. And it's exciting, and the scoring is exciting with the sudden death juice, the super tie breaks. It can be something that people really get into. And I know matches that I've played this year, which have been well attended, some of them, that the crowd are enjoying it. they enjoy seeing the different things. They enjoy seeing the quick reactions, the things like that.
Yeah, 100%. So hopefully we can continue this and
Yeah.
continue to try to market it better, and hopefully the tours will follow suit, I guess.
Yeah.
Thanks a
Yeah.
ton, Luke, for
No,
coming
thank you.
on.
But thank you for having me. I appreciate your time.
Any final advice or words before we hop off here?
I mean, I think I got into tennis and played tennis because I love tennis and I still love it and I still enjoy and I just try and improve every day. So, I mean, yeah, just for anyone going at whatever your level, just try to keep enjoying it. That's the main thing. Tennis is a sport for life. So,
Awesome. Well, thanks everyone for listening. I'll link to everything in the show notes, and I will talk to you all soon. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Doubles Only podcast. If you're interested in diving deeper into any topics I discuss, I've created doubles strategy products that allow me to bring you more podcasts and other doubles content without relying on paid ads. I have ebooks and courses that help you make better strategic decisions during matches and become the smartest player on the court. Go to thetennistribe.com/products to learn more. You can also join my free weekly double strategy newsletter that includes video lessons and more on our homepage. If you want to connect, you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, or email me directly, will@thetennistribe.com.